Caitlin Clark brings it down, goes twice between her legs, step back jack. A'ja Wilson doesn't like that. A'ja Wilson isn't smart enough to understand that everybody's going to get fat because of Caitlin Clark. Everybody won't get fat if they keep bringing up the ridiculous, idiotic, and tired old notion of race.
There are claims circulating that A'ja Wilson has made an extreme demand, suggesting a lifetime ban for Caitlin Clark, which many see as irrational and exaggerated. The argument questions whether the real issue is Clark's performance or the attention she's bringing to the league, implying she has significantly increased interest in a WNBA that previously struggled for visibility. It also suggests that before Clark's rise, certain achievements and MVP-level performances didn't receive much mainstream attention, and now the focus has shifted heavily toward Clark. According to this perspective, some of the current media discussion is seen as unnecessary conflict being created around her, rather than recognizing how her presence has boosted the sport's popularity and exposure for everyone involved.
A'ja Wilson, who bitch whined and moaned and continues to bitch whine and moan, that Caitlin Clark is only popular because she's...
There are questions being raised about why Caitlin Clark's success is being framed by some as a matter of race rather than her skill and performance on the court. The passage suggests that Clark's growing popularity is driven by her talent and impact on the game, not external factors, and criticizes the idea that her achievements should be interpreted differently. It also implies that as Clark continues to rise in prominence, those opposing or criticizing her may find themselves losing relevance, especially if their arguments are seen as unfounded or overly focused on controversy rather than basketball performance. Overall, it presents Clark as a rising star whose success is attributed to ability and influence on the sport, while framing her critics as struggling to keep up with her growing attention and impact.
That we need to worry about than what other people have to say. I have a scout, I have 11 other minds on my team in my locker room that we got to make sure that we're on the same mindset. So I really can't give you the best answer on that because I really don't pay any attention to it. My goal is just to go out there and be the best that I can be for my teammates, both on and off the court, and we're going to go out there and be.
According to Wilson, the claim is that Caitlin Clark's success is being interpreted by some as a lack of respect for the history and pioneers of the game. However, the response strongly challenges that idea. It argues that Clark's achievements, leading the Indiana Fever, breaking records, and bringing major attention to the WNBA, should not be seen as disrespect, but rather as a major boost for the league's visibility and growth. The passage also criticizes the narrative being presented, suggesting it reduces respect to a justification for opposing someone who is simply performing at a higher level. It implies that instead of framing Clark's success negatively, it would be more fair to recognize the positive impact she is having on the future of the sport.
I feel like that college is one of those spaces where you got to win one for them to even have your name in the conversation. And it took me 3 years to win mine.
The passage argues that one player achieved major success in a much shorter time compared to another, suggesting this contrast is the source of tension. It claims that A'ja Wilson is reacting strongly to Caitlin Clark's rapid rise and the attention she is receiving, framing Wilson's response as an overreaction to feeling overshadowed. The tone also suggests that despite Wilson's accomplishments, she is being portrayed as insecure or frustrated in this narrative. Overall, it presents the idea that Clark's quick impact on the league is creating frustration among established players, and that this is being interpreted by some as jealousy or dissatisfaction with the shifting spotlight.
We love Steph Curry as a black man because of how he played. Don't give two craps about Steph Curry or Caitlin Clark being white, black, green, or purple. When in doubt, yell racism. And when in doubt, look stupid doing it. And the latest is this moron named A'ja Wilson. I think, talking about racism, it's a huge thing. I think a lot of people may say it's not about black and white, but to me it really is. Well, of course.
The passage argues that Caitlin Clark's growing popularity is due to her on-court performance and the attention she brings to women's basketball, suggesting her success is driven by talent and results rather than outside narratives. It claims that instead of viewing Clark's rise positively as a boost for the league, A'ja Wilson is portrayed as criticizing the media attention Clark receives and attributing it to racial factors. The text rejects that interpretation, insisting Clark's recognition comes from her performances and impact on audiences, including attracting new fans to the sport. Overall, it frames Clark as an athlete whose influence is expanding the game, while portraying her critics as misreading or unfairly politicizing her rise rather than focusing on basketball achievements.
But I think sometimes we do play the race card too much. This ain't racial. This is about sports. This is about athletic ability. You know what I'm saying? And when you look at Caitlin Clark's game, who's very reminiscent of a Steph Curry based on her range and shooting the three, plus everything else she does.
The passage shifts the focus to marketability and commercial appeal, arguing that Caitlin Clark's popularity is reflected in major endorsement interest, including a widely discussed Nike deal reportedly worth a large sum. It suggests that Clark's appeal comes from her playing style, charisma, and ability to attract new audiences, which in turn increases her value to brands and the league. In contrast, it claims that A'ja Wilson lacks similar endorsement opportunities, using this comparison to imply a gap in commercial recognition between the two players. Overall, the text frames Clark as a highly marketable star whose rising profile is driven by fan engagement and corporate interest, while portraying Wilson as reacting negatively rather than benefiting from the same level of attention.
Is Caitlin Clark currently the face of the WNBA? Yes. Do I think if A'ja Wilson dropped a shoe and Caitlin Clark dropped a shoe today at the very same time, that Caitlin Clark would outsell A'ja's shoe by 100 times? Yes, I think.
The passage argues that Caitlin Clark is not only competing on the court, but also gaining stronger public support and attention compared to other players. It describes Clark as a standout rookie whose performance, energy, and impact on her team have helped raise interest in the league and generate a strong fan following. In contrast, it portrays A'ja Wilson as receiving less favorable public perception, suggesting her comments are being interpreted negatively in the broader media narrative. Overall, the text emphasizes Clark's rising popularity and influence, while framing the discussion as a shift in attention toward her as a central figure in the sport. The passage claims that A'ja Wilson criticized Caitlin Clark's playing style, particularly describing her as overly confident and suggesting that media coverage of Clark is exaggerated. In response, the text reframes Clark's confidence as part of what makes her exciting to watch, arguing that her energy and presence are a major reason fans are drawn to the league. It also references past comments attributed to Wilson about how her own game is perceived, using that to suggest frustration or dissatisfaction with public opinion. The passage further argues that debates around Clark have created divided fan reactions, but downplays racial interpretations and instead frames the issue as being about competition, attention, and relevance in the league. It concludes by saying Clark's impact is shown through records, attendance, and media interest, while suggesting the league itself is focused on growth and capitalizing on increased visibility, rather than engaging in individual disputes.
Oh, Caitlin Clark, Dawn Staley, the great Dawn Staley, who I revere, by the way. But she was playing the way she's playing now. Well, wait a minute. You know she had the potential. You know, playing amongst other stars, with her marksmanship, she could have made big things happen. With her passing ability, she could have made things happen. Then she would have drawn excitement and eyeballs, and people the world over would have been watching her, which would have assisted in the elevation of the WNBA brand, which would have benefited everybody.
The passage argues that A'ja Wilson, despite her achievements like MVP awards and championships, is reacting negatively to Caitlin Clark's rapid rise in popularity and media attention. It suggests that Clark's influence goes beyond statistics, claiming her appeal comes from charisma, relatability, and her ability to attract widespread fan engagement and cultural attention. The text also compares current reactions to Wilson's earlier career, implying that she once benefited from similar media attention and endorsement opportunities without criticism. Overall, it frames the situation as a shift in public spotlight toward Clark, while portraying Wilson as struggling to accept that change and reacting by criticizing the attention Clark receives. The passage argues that A'ja Wilson is reacting negatively to Caitlin Clark's rise, portraying it as jealousy and an inability to accept shifting attention in the WNBA. It claims Clark's popularity comes from her talent, personality, and impact on the game, while suggesting Wilson is focusing on criticism instead of supporting the league's growth. Overall, it frames Clark as the emerging face of the sport and Wilson as struggling with that change.